there's fear that moves us to irrational decisions, hastily decisions. I just find it very American how the first thing we ran out of was toilet paper. Yeah. Many people can't handle anxiety. They don't know how to handle anxiety because we're not taught how to handle anxiety in this culture. But in the ancient Hebrew, the picture of anxiety is a fish that's darting through the water really fast with a tail that's so I've heard in the church, we're not supposed to fear God. There's no fear in love. There's a holy fear for God. A holy fear. What does that mean? A holy fear. What does that mean? What does that look like? There are 30 different Hebrew words for fear. 30. This is a great time of tribulation and for testing and for trials, but it's also a great time that we have an opportunity to witness the prophecies. We are in the middle of major prophecies that people have been waiting for thousands of years for. Thousands of years. We are in that time. So we need to buckle up and read. The word's the only strap that's going to hold us in the seat of where we're supposed to be. And we got to stay within that seat belt, for lack of a better word. Shalom, everybody. It's been a minute since I've been off. I took a little break from social media, and I'm slowly coming back into it. I was enjoying the peace. But in light of all this worldwide stuff going on, I have something that's on my spirit that I would like to share in hopes that it would bring comfort to those who are afraid and to those who are kind of really making light of the things that are going on, to bring you something to think about. So, should we be afraid? Should we be making light of all this? Should we... What should we be doing? That really is the question. We have people in the church trying to tell you not to be afraid, to put your trust in God. While that is true, there's more to it that needs to be said. And so I've been doing a lot of studying on the Hebrew language. Not so much the modern Hebrew language, but the ancient Hebrew. The ancient Hebrew is, I wouldn't say it's different, because the definitions come from the ancient that we see in the modern. But when I'm studying the ancient Hebrew, we can have a clearer understanding of where the writer came from, because the ancient Hebrew will explain the context and the culture of the writer, and really give a very clear understanding, a closer understanding to what the writer would be saying versus someone's random interpretation from today's culture and timeline. And our mindset in America is very, very different to the mindset of a Hebrew writer. It's different. Some people might think, well, why is that important? Because we have the words translated for us, so we can just take that and believe how we understand it. That's extremely dangerous to do that. Extremely dangerous. I was brought up in the Christian church, and that's how Christianity is. And it is one of the reasons why today, one of the many reasons why today I cannot identify with the Christian religion. The more I study the Bible in the context of the timeline that it was written, the less I can identify with Christianity. So before you click off this video being offended, just hear me out, okay? So I'm going to use one word as an example. Fear. F-E-A-R. Fear. We have that word, and it's one word. I'm fearful. I'm afraid. You're scared, right? You want to run, you want to flee, you're afraid of a person, you're afraid of something, afraid of an epidemic, you know, or what have you. There are, as far as I've seen, there's probably more, but as much as I could study, there are 30 different Hebrew words for fear. 30. When you're looking at the ancient language, which is what I love doing, and I'm still learning, so as I'm going, but as I've learned, for the word fear, there are, within those 30 words, you know, the Strong's numbers, those are split into 12 groups within the root definitions. So with Hebrew, I don't want to go into a big complex thing, but the words in Hebrew are broken down into root definitions. There's like, okay, so like an English word, and I can't think of anything at the top of my mind because this is totally on the fly. An English word is such and such, and it comes from the Latin word such and such, you know what I mean? So that's what the root means in Hebrew, but it's all within the Hebrew language. Even deeper than that, each letter in the alphabet has its own meaning. I'm not going to go into that right now. So I found it interesting that there are so many different words for fear. And I'm like, I've heard in the church, we're not supposed to fear God. There's no fear in love. There's a holy fear for God. You know, a holy fear. What does that mean? A holy fear. What does that mean? What does that look like? And one of the things that I love about the ancient Hebrew language is that everything has a concrete picture that we can relate it to something abstract like fear or love or joy. So for fear, like I said, there's 30, and I'm not going to go through each one because this video would be really, really long. But let me show you some of the roots, because it's split into 12 roots. One of them would be, the root definition would be a sojourner or a traveler. Many times with the Hebrews themselves, within the culture and the community, when the Hebrews would see a stranger come from outside their land coming in, they were first seen as an enemy for many reasons. But kind of picture it like say you're in your house, especially now when everything is kind of going crazy. If you're in your house and someone walks into your house uninvited, they're kind of seen as the enemy, right? So picture it like that. So there's different words. There's, for this particular one, 5 words that are grouped with that root word for fear. Okay, so there's scriptures that talk about that. There's a root word that explains anxiety. I know anxiety is definitely something that's highly talked about today. Many people can't handle anxiety. They don't know how to handle anxiety because we're not taught how to handle anxiety in this culture. But in the ancient Hebrew, the picture of anxiety is a fish that's darting through the water really fast, with a tail that's and what's happening, I'm going to read it here. The back and forth moving like a foot or tail. The tail of a fish moves back and forth to propel itself through the water. So you see a fish tank, and you see this kid banging on the window, right? And the fishes dart really, really fast. That's the picture, the Hebrew picture of anxiety. It makes you move really fast. And it goes on and on and on and on. Different kinds of fear. We have to remember that being afraid of a stranger is a healthy fear. Okay, it's a form of protection. It makes you move to protect yourself, or to alert stranger danger if you're a kid, you know, or if you're, you know, you're bearing arms in your house. It alerts you to protect your home, right? Same thing with the anxiety. Those fish that are responding to the banging on the window, they are moving out of what they perceive as danger. Okay, so there's a time and a place for everything. But if it's ongoing, that's where it becomes a health hazard. And even scientists and health practitioners would say that, ongoing stress and the sense of fear will put a major toll on your body because it's not meant to be ongoing. That kind of fear. One of the kind of fears that I want to talk about the most is what's mentioned the most in the Bible. Okay? And I'm just going to read to you the definition. Okay? This is really important. This is the kind of fear that we are supposed to have. Okay? The root means to throw or to fear. The hand of a man is used for throwing the flowing of water in a river. So you can kind of picture that. The water just flowing. A throwing of the finger to show a direction to walk. You ask the directions how to get to the YMCA, whatever, and they're going to most likely point where to go. Oh, you go this way, turn that street, or you go this way, turn that street, whatever, right? So a throwing of the finger to show a direction to walk or live. The throwing of an arrow. You picture, a person who's shooting an arrow, and that is the picture of this word here, okay? The throwing down of water in rain, so the actual action of water being thrown down, that's also a part of this description. An awe or fear where one throws himself or herself down to the foot of a person in authority. Interestingly enough, is this root word also, what also comes from this word here is Torah, which is translated to law, and is largely avoided in Christianity as well. But it's mentioned many times. So one of the ways that you can have a clear understanding of what a word really means is looking at where that word is first mentioned in the Bible, okay? And so in Genesis 3:10, this is Strong's number 3372. I'll put it, somewhere on the screen here. This word that was first mentioned, this word for fear, actually translates to afraid. Genesis 3:10. And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. Okay? If you're not familiar with the Bible, this is when Adam and Eve first sinned. They ate the fruit and they knew they were naked, and Yahuwah, God, he came looking for them in the garden, and they hid themselves because they were afraid. Okay? So that fear is the fear that I'm talking about. It makes you move out of respect of the one in authority. Okay. Another word from that root for 3373, Genesis 22:12. The first time it's mentioned. And he said, lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you anything unto him, for I now know that you fear Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your beloved, from me. This, you have to read it, because I don't want to make this video too long. But this particular passage is when Abraham was tested to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. And Yah stopped him when he said, let me read it again. He said, for now I know that you fear Elohim. So he could see, Yah could see the physical evidence of that fear, that holy fear, which is the following of the arrow being shot, the water going down the river, the water coming down the following of the pointing to whatever direction you're supposed to walk as you live. Okay? This is the kind of fear that we need to have. Okay? And so, let me keep going. There's another Hebrew word that's in this root definition here. And it is Genesis 9:2. Go back. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moves upon the earth, and upon all the fish of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. And this is the point in Genesis where Noah and his sons and the wives, they all came out of the ark. Okay, and Yah had just told them to be fruitful and multiply, and was giving them instructions, all these instructions. And so he was saying that the fear and dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth. Okay, these animals, they do try to stay away, or they're obedient depending on what kind of animals they are, out of fear. Okay, it's that holy fear. It's the same root word. Okay, we can train animals to obey us where they have that holy fear. Okay, they follow directions, they submit, or they run away out of fear to be apart. So now I want to pull up a verse that it's very, very common, the Psalms 23. Very, very common with believers and non-believers to be quoting, trying to comfort themselves. I want to give a clearer understanding of what in the ancient context, what it means, okay? Psalms 23 verse 4. The whole chapter is only 6 verses, so you can read it. It's really, really short. But for the sake of this video, I'm only going to read verse number 4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So, okay, so we've been talking about fear in relation to God or Yah, or in relation to animals, us having dominion over animals. And here it says, I will fear no evil. So you got to really think about that. So if this word, this is the same word. It's the word, Numbers 3372. The same word that was used when Adam said, I was afraid and I was naked, so I hid myself. It's the same word for fear that was used. So that fear that Adam had caused him to react in a certain way, to hide himself, because he knew he was wrong, okay? It was that holy fear. So here where it's saying, even though I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. So I will not submit or be moved because of evil. That's what that's saying there. Even though we are all around the shadow of death, literally, in most of the world, with this thing going around, we don't have to submit to it, to that fear. We don't need to move because of that. We do need to be practical and provide for our house and shelter and protect our home. And I'm not talking about being ignorant, okay? What I'm talking about is we don't need to have that unsettling anxiety, the fish darting in the water, fear, because of this, okay? What we need to have, what is said over and over and over and over in the Bible, is that we need to have that holy fear that moves us to please Him. This whole thing that's going on is, I want to say it's just the beginning, but it's already been begun for some time of the end. I'm not going to go into this whole doomsday thing, you know, apocalypse, but this is part of prophecy, okay? The only way that you and I can be freed from any damnation, for the lack of a better word, that's being spoken in Revelations, in Daniel, in Isaiah, is we need to submit to the words in here. Okay? We have to. We can't escape it. We can't pray it out. I'm seeing prayer chains, you know, trying to pray this disease away and pray it. I'm sorry. We cannot pray prophecy away. Okay? What we need to do is to get our butts in gear and submit to the words that are in this book if we want to be safe. Okay? We're not promised not getting sick. We're not promised not getting hurt. We're not promised anything, because even Paul says that if we live or if we die, we do it unto the Lord, is what the word says, but it's really Yahuwah. We do it unto Yahuwah. Okay? What I'm talking about here is eternal safety. Okay? That's not something that can be done through our own volition. This whole worldwide epidemic is part of the plan to move us to the one world system. We need to pay attention to everything that's happening, and we need to be on guard to everything that's happening. Not out of fears. Oh! No, we need to be on guard so that we know when and how to move. Okay, and this word would tell us when and how to move. It's not going to be long before the mark of the beast is going to show up. There's many theories on what that's going to look like. I'm not going to go into that, but it's just inevitable. We need to make sure that we are set apart. And the only way we can be set apart is by following the word. Okay, the Easter is coming up here. Y'all better not be celebrating that, because it's an abomination to what's in the word. Passover. If you want to honor the Messiah, Jesus Christ, many people call him Jesus Christ, but really his name in literal translation is Yahoshua. Okay, Yahoshua, which in English translates to Joshua. But many of us know him as Jesus Christ, or Yahweh Shai, or Hamashiach, which is Christ, Hebrew word for Christ. If we really want to honor him, the one who came and walked this earth in perfectness to Torah, to the law and the instructions, and what the walking and living and breathing temple for us on our behalf, so that we can walk in his law, in grace, then we need to honor him the way the Bible says, okay? Not the way man says, okay? Easter is an abomination. Easter is not honoring him. There are so many things wrong with what Christianity is teaching. You have to read it for yourself to really see what's wrong with it. Okay, there's a lot wrong with it. Okay, the law is not done away with, because Jesus was the walking law. He was walking it perfectly. He didn't break any of it. Any claim that said that he broke the Sabbath or broke the law is only showing their ignorance. I'm sorry. I don't have any other way to say it. The New Testament is just the reiteration of the Old. It's a fulfillment of the Old. You need to read the Word. So instead of us looking at God thinking, how dare you make bad things happen to good people? How dare you make life so hard for me? What are you doing to me? How dare we even think that way? Because let me give you a picture of what that looks like. Okay? You are in the desert and it's scorching hot. It's like 200 degrees, or however hot we can humanly handle, right? Scorching hot. And We have one tree in the desert, just kind of sitting there. And we yell at the tree for not giving us shade when we're not standing under the tree.
How dare you?
That is the picture of what that looks like when we're mad at God for not giving us what we want or allowing difficult things to happen. I'm not trying to be unsympathetic. I know people are dying. I know that people are sick. I know that people are in poverty. I am not trying to make light of it. What I'm trying to say is that we cannot be angry at someone for not providing something for us when we're not drawing near to that provision. Over and over and over and over in the scripture, another word is to study as shadow. When Yah was pleading with Israel, with the Israelites, he was drawing them, doing all these things, trying to draw them under his shadow, under his wings. The Torah, the law, was a shadow of things to come. And just like the hen gathers her chicks under her wings, they are under her shadow. You have to be under it to have the shadow over you, to protect you. In order to do that, you have to obey the instructions. You have to be moved with that holy fear to obey the instruction in order to be under the shadow of the wings. What that looks like today is a lot of studying. You start in Genesis. You have Christians tell you to start in Matthew or John. Don't. Because you cannot start the middle of a book and understand any of the characters. I mean, I can't believe that people are doing that. People are teaching people that. Read from Genesis and go all the way to Revelation, and then you start over again, over and over and over again. Listen to it. In the beginning of this, and even periodically now, I do find myself kind of like, that anxiety kind of hits me sometimes, and it's natural. We've got a lot going on. It's very scary. This is uncharted waters for, this modern world. What's going on? What are we going to do? How long is this going to last, right? The tip for you and for me, which I've been doing for myself and has been very beneficial, is getting on your phone. There's an audio app called, I think YouVersion it's called, and I'll put a picture up what the app looks like. Download that app, okay? It's the Bible app, okay? And it has the audio option, okay? Play while you sleep. Put on Psalms and let it play. And what I've been doing is I'll let it play from Psalms to Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. You gotta listen to Ecclesiastes, because the end will tell you what's the most important. And I'll give you the spoiler alert, okay? Ecclesiastes 12:13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. That is the conclusion, okay? But listening to Psalms and Proverbs will give you peace so that you can breathe, okay? And have that rest so you can go to sleep. I play it when I'm having a rough day. I'll play it while I'm going about my day. And just turn off those social media apps, those notifications. You don't need that. Okay, take a break and listen to it. The best chapter ever is Psalms 119. The longest chapter in the Bible, and it's the most important. It is the key of David. It is the key, and it's all about how David was meditating on Torah, on the law. And through those meditations, he was, if you dig into it, which is what I've been doing, is digging into it, he was prophesying of the Messiah through the law. It's just so beautiful. I love it. I love the word. It is so alive right now. The gospel starts in Genesis. John 1:1 will tell you, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John was pointing to Genesis. Okay, Jesus was pointing to Genesis because that's where he came. He was there when the foundations was set. The gospel starts in the beginning. You will not, I promise you, you will never get to know the true Messiah if you don't read from the beginning and read the whole thing. Okay, the first 5 books are the most important to gain understanding. We got to remember that David, all his beautiful writing, people like to make light of his writing. It's like, oh, it's so poetic, so beautiful. Where did he get all that beautiful writing from? He was meditating on the books that most of us just skim over and kind of like, oh man, so long, it's so drawn out, it's so, so many rules, and but that's what David was meditating on. That he was meditating on the first 5 books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And guess what? All the prophets after him were doing the same thing. Revelation is not a new book. Revelation was reiterating Daniel and Isaiah and Jeremiah and all those other ones that got kicked out of the 66 books. Okay, New Testament is just a reiteration of the Old. Okay, if you study it, you'll know that. So the conclusion of this, it boils down to what kind of fear we need to have. There is that kind of fear that we don't like that will make us move. It will make us move to go buy the things we need to do. That shouldn't last long. The fear that we should always have is the fear that David had, that Adam had, that Abraham had. Abraham is the father of this faith. And Yah commended him for it. And what was Abraham doing? He was obeying his instructions. Yah was testing him. Okay? This is a great time of tribulation and for testing and for trials. But it's also a great time that we have an opportunity to witness the prophecies. We are in the middle of major prophecies that people have been waiting thousands of years for. Thousands of years. We are in that time. So we need to buckle up and read. The word's the only strap that's going to hold us in the seat of where we're supposed to be. And we got to stay within that seatbelt, for lack of a better word. Okay? Sure.